Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Sanda, Season 1, Episode 9. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, first and foremost, we're picking up with Toyo and Sanda as Santa, him, which I almost thought for a second, I was like, has Toyo never seen Sanda as his kid form? Because every time we've seen him around each other, he's always been in his Santa form. But she has to know who he is as Sanda, most likely. But I just don't think he's ever been in his kid form as Sanda in front of her. I don't know if that's something maybe even she doesn't want to know who he really is, because it's like less, like it's that thing of, as long as I don't know, even if someone tries to get that information out of me, if I legitimately don't know, you don't have to worry about me cracking. I don't think you'd have to worry about her cracking regardless, but I don't know if that's the thought process, or like I said, as like the head chief person in charge of all of this, she already knows who Sanda is. But either way, at first it seems like every time he comes to her, all he's doing is massaging her, and she's telling him to hit her harder, and he's like, well, am I really supposed to do this? Because he's like, when is she actually going to teach me in a fight? So I was like, oh, so is she pulling a Mr. Miyagi, wax on type of thing. And it seems like that's the case, because she wants him to hit harder and harder, but eventually he stops hitting as hard as possible because he's kind of worried, like, oh, I might actually hurt her. So, and then she proceeds to attack him. She actually breaks one of his index fingers to make a point that it's like, right, you might be unkillable, but you still feel pain, and that's what's going to like stop you. Because it's like, Fumi is set on killing you, so you need to kill her before she kills you. It's like, you're so caught up in holding yourself back, and the only way you're going to be stronger as a Santa is if you stop holding back. And so she's like, you're actually not going to leave this room until you land a blow on me. In fact, I thought it was this kind of beautiful thing where like he visualizes her and who she was in her younger years, and in that moment he's visualized as Sanda, not Santa, because she says, you're so focused on age. The fact is, you look at old people as fragile, whereas you look at young kids as like, you look at them as like helpless infants. It's like your focus on that is going to blind you from stopping you from going full throttle. It's like you need to. That's his only way of survival, to face what's to come. And so, I mean, it makes sense in some regards too, because I mean, especially like the duality that Sanda has to deal with, stuck between being a kid and being an adult, and that's also reflected, that hesitation is also reflected in who he's fighting. I mean, I think he's able to kind of put that aside with Oshibu, but even then he never like goes full throttle with the intent to kill anybody. This is the first time he's being told like, you need to kill someone, not just anyone. It's a kid too, so that makes it a little like complicated for him, because he doesn't want to kill anyone. But I love that in that moment when he attacks her, he's like, I don't know if this is what she planned, that because my finger's broken, I can't feel anything. So it's a combination of when I make contact with Toyo's face, I can't feel the pain I'm inflicting on her, nor can I feel the pain that it's inflicted upon me. So it's a dual side of it. It numbs me to it, so it makes it a little easier that I can like disassociate, and the word they use, compartmentalize. You're able to kind of properly compartmentalize that in this moment, because it is a do or die, and you don't want to freeze and hesitate when the time comes. You need to, once again, kind of numb yourself, because as we can see, like children, that's why Oshibu wants it to be a child to go after you, because they could hit you in a way that no one else could, because you as Santa will be too preoccupied looking at them as a child. And obviously we've seen like how crazy Fumi is. But I love that Toyo is like, no, I'm okay, good. Look, I have no teeth, so like there's no damage. I'm good. But then we also see that he transforms into a black suit. And I think it's so interesting that his black suit is actually, it looks like a business suit, which is so interesting that it's stylized like that. Because they had that conversation earlier about the red of like, you know, I think he said like his mom told him stories, or like a family member, might have been his mom, told him stories about Santa and black. But for him, he's like, I've always associated Santa with red, which even Toyo is like, yeah, like red is kind of associated with like, you know, fighting for justice. But she's like, I personally hate red, you know? So, but now it's kind of showing like, all right, so black is supposed to be his dark side self a little bit. It almost feels like when Santa's got to get the job done, when he's got to get things, you know, down and dirty, that's when the black suit comes out. I mean, obviously, the thing you immediately think about, especially going from red to black, immediately my brain, the nerd I am, thinks of Spider-Man. Like how much Peter changes when he goes from his regular Spider-Man to black suited Spider-Man. So, but it's because Sanda's struggling with, like, do I have to become the type of adult that does that? Like, I don't want to become that person. And she's like, oh, you want to become an adult who is kind, who basically doesn't have to get his hands dirty, doesn't want to hurt anybody. And she's calling him, an idiot, because she's kind of like the naivete behind that. Because it's like being an adult and growing up in this world, you can try to minimize it, but there's no getting around. Eventually, you will hurt people in some shape or form. It is just sadly a part of life. Hurt is a part of life. It's just about learning how to take that hurt and what you do with it. How you respond to it, how you respond, how people hurt you, how you hurt others is how you respond to it. But it's like you can't really avoid that. And I just think that's kind of an interesting conundrum for him to be in, to have that be the case, and like this all part of this larger lesson Toyo is trying to teach him. And so it's like, right, is this what it means to be an adult? But even then he's like, I don't want to be that black suited I was literally about to say black suited Spider-Man, it's on the tip of my tongue, the black suited Santa, because if that's what it means to be an adult, like I want to find another way that isn't that way. He doesn't ever, he's like, he's actually even scared, like the next time I transform, will I be wearing the red suit or the black suit? He's like, I want to be wearing the red suit, because that to me is a symbolization of the Santa I want to be, the one that helps out kids, not the one that hurts them or is willing to hurt people. And he runs into Fumi, which obviously she doesn't know who he is necessarily, so he's like still got that nervousness around her. He's like, yeah, she just does that to him, but he's like, every time I see you, you've got dead plants. And she's like, oh yeah, because I feel at ease, they make me feel comfortable while I'm walking around. He's like, what's your obsession with like half dead things? And so they go over to a pile of leaves, and beforehand he's thinking to himself, it's like, I have to sneak her. This is the chance. This is the time. I could just transform her and take her out now. She's going to try to kill me anyway, so it would be better just to take her out now and do it. But before he could, she sits him down in a pile of leaves and talks about like this is like her favorite thing because it's comfortable to her. And she explains like why. She's like, I'm not quite sure what it is about like half dead things, but she's like, it reminds me of my mom's hands. And so obviously learning more, and Oshibu isn't the only one, as we see like a lot of adults in this world are obsessed with youth. I mean, I understand it's a conversation of mortality and like who you were in your youth, and youth is so prioritized in this world, it makes sense that even the adults become obsessed with it. But basically her mom, every time she was like come home to visit, her mom would have a different face because her mom would constantly get plastic surgery. But it's back to that conversation of not the hands, because the way she puts it is, I basically hands, the hurdle to cross for plastic surgery when it comes to hands hasn't gotten there yet. Even where they are societal and medical advancement wise, they can't do anything about hands. Hence why Oshibu, because it's not like the sake of, oh, I'm keeping this because I want to. It's like there's just no solution for it yet. There's also no solution for the fact is, once again, he still has a human brain, so that hasn't been able to be replaced either. So, but her mom has the face of a 20-year-old and the hands of a 40-year-old. And the only thing that's ever kept their family together, it's like her mom's hands and her smile. And so that's when Fumi became, because she's like, my mom has the same eyes as me. And so for her, it's like, okay, I learned how to keep up my fake smile no matter what, because that way my mom can look at her own smile and see like herself. And it's like, if that, like, to her, that was her way to keep her family together, keep her mom sane. But eventually her brother and her father left because it was just, they couldn't recognize the person in front of them anymore. But Fumi didn't want to leave her mom behind and stayed. And so we see on the television, there's this pharmaceutical conversation about the power of youth and stuff like that. And obviously, like, you see like a chicken in a suit, which I was watching Otaku, the most recent Otaku Anonymous, because I reference him a lot because, like, obviously Sanda's one of the shows they're covering, and they're maybe a little more knowledgeable about certain things that once again, I just like the really interesting conversations they have related to the show. Just a lot of stuff they're watching, but in particular Sanda. And the chicken thing came up because I brought it up last episode about like, oh yeah, there was that random teacher named Itagaki, which I was like, well, Paru Itagaki is the last name, it's the surname of the mangaka. So I was like, the chances of that are interesting. But they brought up the whole like, oh, she almost looks like a kind of like a chicken or whatever, like with that character's like hairstyle and stuff. And the conversation came up that that's kind of like maybe part of Itagaki's like logo in a way. And I looked it up to confirm it, and like what they were saying was right, that it's like her main logo is that, and apparently it's based on one of her characters from Beastars, like one of her other mangas, but it's also like it's the thing that she wears. As I figured as much, it's what she wears as like in some of her public appearances, because a lot of mangaka, very much in like the same mentality as like VTubers, like to keep their anonymity. So like that's why there's a lot of mangaka. There are very few photos of them. If there are any, usually they're older photos. Like a great example I would always use is like Akira Toriyama. Like, you know, sadly when he was passed, I was looking through online. Most photos you find of Akira Toriyama were of him when he was younger, because I guess he just a lot of mangaka just like enjoy their privacy, and like there were obviously pictures of him when he was older, but I feel like I found very few. Most photos I googled always came up were like much younger photos of him. So it just, I think I've always kind of maintained that mentality to realize, because I think I never realized how much like a lot of mangaka keep their anonymity. The whole chicken thing now makes a lot more sense of like why that's kind of spread throughout, knowing like, oh yeah, that's part of like, that's a near and dear logo to her, and it's like, once again, she uses it as a mask when she's like wearing going to public appearances and stuff like that. So I just thought that was interesting. So I just wanted to focus on that just because it was a part of like the pharmaceutical commercial and stuff. But anyway, staying on that conversation about the pharmaceuticals, uh, Fumi would find her mom's medicine, because she would just find her mom taking pills all the time. It was all related to recapturing her youth, and it's actually really sad when you look at her face, because you can see like the scuff marks on her face that I think are probably from like the surgical scars, and just like you can also see like that, like on the right side of her face, her eye is always kind of almost like closed, like it's swollen, like her face is swollen from the surgeries and stuff, because her left eye is way more open than her right eye, and it's just, that's kind of a sad thing to kind of look at. And you could, I think to try and mitigate that, she tried to throw away all her mom's pills, because she wanted to try and talk her mom out of all of this, being like, it's okay to kind of age and stuff, like, do you really like, you know, popping all these pills, are they really good for you? And when she gets back into bed, what does she find? Her mom has chopped off her arm with a cleaver, because now she's like, oh, I can get rid of these arms and I can be young. You as a 10-year-old, you'll never fully understand this, Fumi. And like I said, for Fumi, the one thing that kind of kept everything going was her own smile and her mom's hand. And so for her mom to lose, like lop off the only things that are left of her that are actually her, everything else is changing about her. She's losing who she is, and you get rid of your arms. It's like, I got to stop my mom before she's completely gone. So she, the one adult she killed, I mean, we don't know if she's killed others, but it never really came up. So I'm assuming the only adult she's killed is her mom, because in her mind, it's like, I think it's better, like, if that's what it means to age, then it might be better to put people out of their misery before they go crazy like that. So, because she even says, like, it's kind of effed up, but she's like, it almost seemed like there's a little bit of a happiness on my mom's dead face of, like, when she died. Like, it was almost like I saw a little bit of who she used to be in that moment. And it's kind of, like, sad that, like, she felt the need to stop, but her mom was batshit crazy and was losing her mind more and more, and that it's like there was no getting back the mom she used to have, because she was too far gone. But it's, you know, and to know that that's her association, even there laying in the leaves, she's squeezing at the leaves, because it's like it's the closest thing she can to feel her mom again. You're just like, that is heartbreaking and sad. And Sanda hearing that, knowing, like, learning her backstory like that, made him instinctively turn into Santa, because he's like, I wanted to be there for her. So he extends out his hand. He's like, that was stupid. I'm the one that was right beside her. All of a sudden, I turn into Santa. And she doesn't look his direction. She just squeezes his hand, and she has this look on her face, like a very stoic look. And then he takes some of those beans to turn back to Sanda, and she's like, hey, I can't wait to see you at like the peak youth ceremony. Let's meet up there. And it's like, right. And as he puts it, it's like, oh, this is a declaration of war. So for her, it was like almost kind of that moment of like, okay, so that's what this is. And it's like, oh, I kind of liked you, Sanda. Oh, well, I guess I got to put you down. But I think there's also probably that heartwarming moment of like, I got to feel older, dry hands that made me think of my mom. So it's kind of, that was nice. So it's kind of like, it's a reprieve for now, but it's like, cool. The peak ceremony is going to be where we really pop off, because there were kids coming nearby. So she's like, this ain't the place for me to pop off and kill you. So gotta probably prepare even more. So Sanda's takeaway from that is, once again, I'm not going to be the black suited Santa who's going to fight a kid. Now that I know your story, I'll take everything you got towards me, so that, like, you can try to kill me, but I won't hurt you. But I need to prepare myself. I need to get used to the pain so that it doesn't stop me, so that I don't let the pain be my excuse to like attack or hurt her. So he's meeting up with Yagiuda and Amaya, and he's asking Amaya to shoot him. It's like, well, obviously Yagiuda shot him plenty of times, but it's more specifically because he needs a kid to be the one threatening his life, because that's always like, he's had no problem fighting like Oshibu or Yagiuda, once again, not to the full extent or trying to kill them, but just defending himself. But kids continue to be his weakness, so Amiya has to step up and be the one to shoot. And I love that he's like, shouldn't we get like Fuyumura, because she is the one that's the most likely? But I think Fuyumura is kind of a weird exception just because of the batshit crazy that stuff that Sanda's had to deal with her. Like, she's her, so like, especially because there's the connection where it's like, Amaya is Sanda's best friend, so I need you to do this for me. And Yagi Udo being like, you do realize I am still your enemy, right? So he ends up helping Amaya and aim, shoot Sanda, and is like, right, next time aim for the head. And he does, and it hurts like hell, but it's like, oh, you're doing a good job. But Amiya's like, he understands what this is about, but he's also frustrated because he's like, you're asking me to do this, the trauma I'm going through because of this, the fact is you're asking me to hurt and litter my best friend full of bullets. And just like when it's all said and done, emptied out all the bullets that Yaki Uda bought, and there he is, like, Amaya's covered in blood and frustrated, even to the point, like, even when Sanda turns back into Sanda, his wounds typically will heal, but the problem is he still has marks on his face because the wounds haven't fully healed because of how much damage he was taking as Santa. So it's like, they take a little longer to heal, and obviously Amaya's upset because he's like, yo, I'm a 14-year-old gunman, which Yagi Uda's like, all right, stop exaggerating. He's like, yo, like, what about my mental state? What about the trauma I now have to carry because you put me in this situation? He's like, you don't want to be a strong Santa, you just want to be a strong man. But for, Sanda's like, dude, I'm trying to make this work out the best I can. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to steel myself and prepare myself because I want to stop Fumi. Like, I want to take all her wrath, but I don't want to, like, and I want to be able to stand up to it and accept all of it without having to hurt her. That's not the Santa I want to be. I'm not going to hurt you, but I'm not going to let you kill me either. So then we cut to the complicated Fuyumura and Ono situation where Fuyumura is doing Ono's nails, and she's like, oh, I'm not really good at it and stuff like that. Like, doing nails like that, nail polish stuff, has like never been something Fuyumura's really done because she thought she was bad at it. Obviously, Fuyumura herself is starting to feel the distance. I mean, you saw it mostly from Ono, just with everything going on, because Fuyumura, I think, was a little distracted. But Ono started feeling it first, the distance between them, and now Fuyumura's feeling it more and more, of just like how much of a grown-up it feels that Ono has become. Even though it's like all that's happened is she has hit puberty, but it feels like the gap between them has gotten even larger, because it's like, I forgot what sparked the conversation, but it's like, oh, I think like Fuyumura was messing up, and she's like, oh, you should have laughed there. And then Ono was like, I would never laugh at you. It's like, because I like you. And Fuyumura's like, I like you too. But she's like, that's the difference between you and me. We're both using like very differently, and proceeds to strip. And she's like, when you look at my naked body, like, how does it make you feel? Does it make you feel like kind of like heart's beating fast and stuff like that? Because Ono's like, if I saw your naked body, I would feel that way. And she's like, no, you wouldn't. And she's like, yes, I would. So it's like, fine. They both strip down naked. And now, I mean, obviously we know Fuyumura has a very, she already has a complex about her body, because for her it's like, when she looks at Ono, it's like Ono is fully developing, and it's like, oh, you're growing into like you're coming into your body. And she, as we know, kind of has dealt with like, her body, because that came up about the whole Nico of it all, where it's like, oh, Nico's coming into her body, she looks very feminine, but it's like, do I, like, all I have is like, I have like this like not as developed body, like at least in one capacity, but I am tall, whereas Ono is like developing, and she feels like awkward about it. And Ono's telling her just like, oh, just tell me how you're feeling, like when you look at me, because she's like, you like Sanda, don't you? And she smacks her hand away, and it's like, she's like, why are adults so obsessed with like liking and like this and that? Like, it's like, is all that important? Is that all there is to like grown up stuff? And it just irks her nerves. Like I said, she has her own complex about her body, but it's also because she feels like she's losing Ono, and that's not what she wants. For her, it's like, you're my friend, male, female, like bodies and stuff like that. She's like, why does any of that matter? Because for her it feels like, I mean, I think she's not quite 100% sure how she feels about all that. Plus her own, like, I guess you call it body dysmorphia she's kind of going through. And so for her, it's like, you getting so caught up in all of that, it's like bothering her so much that she runs out of the room and obviously bumps into Sanda and Amaya, and they cover her up in the jacket. She's just like, I want Ono back, like turn Ono back into who she was, because Ono had brought up something, it's like, right, you left me behind, you got a whole bunch of friends, and I'm happy for you. But it's like, that's what she feels like, right? Like, how I feel about you isn't how you feel about me, and maybe things were a little different when we were both the same, but now the gap between us is growing deeper and further apart, and just Fuyumura just kind of wants things to go back to they were, because for her, it's like the person in front of her isn't Ono anymore. So it's like, you promised you would bring back Ono, and for Sanda, it's like, this is the first time someone's properly made a wish to him as Santa. It's like, she's like, is it possible for an adult to turn back into a kid, which is complicated nature, considering, like, well, Sanda's got his, Shazam thing going on, where it's like, he is the one example of it, and then you have all these adults around them trying to do that, reverse the aging process. So it's understandable, but it's like, there is no turning back the clock, and that's something you kind of have to contend with, which just, it's a byproduct of getting older. So, and then we end with Oshibu in the bathroom checking in on Ono, because I think she's probably beating herself up about how she handled that situation, because she even says, like, she felt weird about it, because she's like, it's almost like me as an adult asking to see a child naked, even though, like, once again, the age difference between them is like a year, maybe a couple months at most. But it's a psychological thing, especially with just the societal nature of just kind of like keeping kids as young as possible, not letting them hit puberty and stay young. So you add that where it just feels like Ono's like so far away, like on so many different levels, because she's changing, because she's become an adult, and even Fuyumura has changed, but she's still a child. So it's like, the age difference isn't that big, but it just it's a conversation of, like, genetically some people develop more so than others, and like I said, you add in all the like societal things of just what they've done to stunt any aging and progressing and puberty type of thing. So it's going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us with all of this, where things go with the Fumi trying to kill Sanda thing, where Sanda and Amaya stand in the aftermath of all this, but what goes down between this Oshibu and Ono conversation about, it's like, is she still going to go to the peak youth ceremony? Like, she was like, they were like prepping for all of this, and I think she really wanted to kind of, this is what I think Ono was kind of leading up to. She wanted to kind of get all this off of her chest, probably was more specifically hoping to do something. I think she kind of got a little ahead of herself and just kind of went full throttle instead of taking things slow like she probably wanted to at the peak ceremony, before saying her goodbyes. But even, it was either last episode or episode before last where Sanda made that promise to her, like, I'm going to make it so that you, when it's all said and done, I'll deal with Oshibu so that you can come back to this academy. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out going forward. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.